Welcome to our special Sorceress CEO series, my friends. As we step into this new year together, I want to invite you into a journey that is both deeply practical and profoundly spiritual. A journey to reimagine how we do business as women entrepreneurs, weaving in principles of the sacred feminine. This 6-part series is designed to empower you around the themes that often challenge us the most: money, pricing, choosing a business model, delegating, marketing, defining your niche, and more. Each episode will offer clarity and actionable steps to create a business that aligns with your values, supports the life you want, and amplifies your impact in our troubled world. This isn't just about strategy, it's about reclaiming business as a spiritual practice, one where you root into your power, honor your intuition, and lead with your devotion to service and love. Over the next 6 weeks, I'll draw from over 2 decades of experience supporting thousands of women on their entrepreneurial paths, blending tried and true wisdom with fresh practices to help you stay relevant and inspired in 2025's ever-evolving landscape. So settle in, whether you're listening with your morning coffee, on a walk, or between client calls. I'm grateful you're here. Let's redefine what it means to be a sorceress CEO and explore the sacred power of doing business in a way that's uniquely, authentically yours. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to Herself, a space for women to have deep conversations about the intersection between spiritual entrepreneurship and fulfilling your potential, so you can become the woman you truly are in every area of your life. After being in business for over 2 decades, I've learned, as you likely have too, that as you grow your business grows you in unexpected, often challenging, yet miraculous ways. Here, we'll talk about how to get out of your own way so you can grow a business that's abundant and sustainable while allowing you to be a force for good in the world. I'll give you simple, actionable strategies as well as wisdom and inspiration to help you root into your wholeness, lead from your values, and work in ways that feel deeply aligned so you can bring your true self into the world through your business and in every area of your life. I don't think there's a topic to talk about that is more taboo than money. It is revered, it's feared, it's despised, it's desired. It's the object of pretty much any kind of projection imaginable. And let's be real, it's also a realm that we as women have been historically disempowered around. So I see that one of the blessings and the hardest parts of being a woman entrepreneur is that it requires us to face our wounds around money head on, because we simply cannot be successful in our businesses and create the kind of impact and lives that we want without doing this. And we certainly cannot become a sorceress CEO without cultivating a more empowered relationship with our finances. I've been a lifelong student of money, and that will continue until my last breath. And this goes all the way back to when I was a little girl. I am the second oldest of 4 girls, well, now 4 women, and I grew up in a wealthy suburb of New York City in Connecticut, about 45 minutes outside of New York City. My dad had a high-powered, high-paying job in Manhattan. He was very successful, and he would commute every morning at around 5 a.m. on the Metro North train. I remember he would come into my bedroom and give me a kiss goodbye on my cheek while I was sleeping, and I would smell his, shaving cream, the remnants of his shaving cream. I would smell that mouthwash scope, and he would be gone for the day, and he'd come back later that night. My mom was the one who stayed home with us, and she was anything but a stay-at-home mom. I think we need a better term than that. She did so much. She shuttled the 4 of us literally all over creation. We lived we're out in the country. So we had, one of my sisters had horseback riding lessons in one town. I had ballet classes in a different town. We had slumber parties with friends all over the place. I really don't know how she did it. I think that she lived in her car for most of her childhood. And Well, I love both my parents dearly. They would say the same thing, likely, that I never witnessed them having a happy marriage. And they did divorce when I was 18. So that was about 30 years ago. And my mom stayed in that marriage for longer than she wanted to for the sake of the four of us, which is so common. And because we were all financially dependent on my dad. And witnessing that as a little girl and seeing my mom not be able to have the full freedom and autonomy to make her own choices in life at that time, it was one of the things that inspired me to be financially self-sufficient. And I'll say I also just have had the entrepreneurial spirit my whole life, but I was able to look at what my parents had and say, I don't want that. And that has had its blessings and has also had its downsides. And at a young age, I started working. I babysat a lot. I remember I had a huge piggy bank where I would just sock away all the cash that I got from babysitting. I had various summer jobs when I was in high school and middle school. And when I was in college in New York City, at one point I had 4 different jobs. A couple of those were grants that paid me for internships, grants that I applied for. And it gave me a lot of satisfaction to be able to buy things for myself and not be dependent upon my dad financially. And as I graduated from college and ventured off into adulthood, I was always in relationships with men where I paid my own way. And that felt empowering for me. And, at times I envied some of my friends who had partners or husbands who supported them financially, especially when I went through a lot of challenges several years ago and I didn't have anything or anyone to fall back on. I wished that I did at that time, and I can really see the value of different partners being able to pick up the slack at different times. I also really value the work ethic and the ability to keep going in the face of challenge that not having a safety net has instilled in me, because I see in various friends and colleagues and women that I work with, when there's not that kind of financial imperative, it can be harder to actually motivate and get the thing done, you know? And so one of my first business coaches called this learning how to be your own self-generating cash machine. And I definitely learned how to do that. I learned how to be my own self-generating cash machine, so that if for some reason I realized I needed to make $1,000 this week or $10,000 or $20,000 next week, I know that I could. I have the tools, I have the resources, I have the know-how to be able to make that happen. Yes, there would be some hustle involved, but I could do it. And that's empowering. And this is something that I want every woman to learn how to do for herself, if that's something that interests her, because I know not every woman has that motivation or that drive to be financially independent or empowered. There's no right or wrong here. This is just about becoming strong in the places where we want to become strong and where maybe we were previously weak. And that was certainly the case for me. And so while I learned how to market, I learned how to sell, I learned how to grow an audience to be able to be a self-generating cash machine, I also needed to learn how to manage my money. And 2 of the most common challenges that I see with my private clients and with women who step into my mastermind Sorcerer's CEO have to do with money. And the first challenge is not feeling like they're making the kind of money they want to be making. And number 2 is they do not have a clear relationship with their money or tangible practices to manage it. So this is very common again for us as women. We are conditioned to be like ostriches with our heads buried in the sand when it comes to our finances. I get it. I know it can be super uncomfortable, especially if we're not seeing the results that we want. And especially in those cases, we don't want to be looking, because it just makes us need to confront reality even more. And if we don't have the know-how to create a different experience for ourselves, we can feel very disempowered. But I want to really emphasize here that, as with anything in our lives that we want to shift and change, we first need to become aware of where we are. We first need to be willing to face what is uncomfortable and really recognize the gap. So, just an example that has nothing to do with money. When I started on a more dialed in self-care regiment, that's right. I think that's the right word for perimenopause, because I was just noticing some big shifts. I started that several months ago. My functional medicine doctor gave me the challenge to put on an additional 5 pounds of muscle. That felt intimidating. And I don't know if I've gotten there yet. I know that I have put on a lot more muscle. I don't know if it's been 5 pounds, but first I had to see where I was. And I hadn't really lifted weights since before COVID. And given that I'm growing older and my hormones are shifting, I was also noticing that I was starting to lose some muscle mass. I just wasn't maintaining that kind of tone like I was used to. And while it felt discouraging to be aware of that, I needed to, in order to have a starting point to be able to make some shifts. So, wherever you are with your finances, if it's not where you want to be, it's likely uncomfortable. But let that be your starting point right now. And the discomfort is not going to kill you. It's just going to feel a little bit uncomfortable, right? And if it helps, do this with an accountability buddy, do this with a friend, or if you're in a mastermind program or a mentorship, do it with a woman in your program. If you want to do it by yourself, I recommend just setting up a sacred space for yourself, or sitting in your sacred space, light a candle, make something hot and delicious to drink, wear comfy clothes. And do this on a day and at a time when you feel resourced. So likely that's not at night, unless you're more of a night owl. Or if you have kids and that's really the only time that you have to yourself, best to do it when you're not exhausted. Maybe after a yoga class or some other time when you feel some sense of inner spaciousness. And then just look at your numbers, open up your bank account, and hopefully you have a business bank account and a personal bank account. If you don't, this is your urge, your loving nudge to open up a business account, savings and checking. And look, how much money came into your business this week? How much money did you spend in your business this week? What was your profit, if any? So just start there. These are the most basic and truly the most important numbers to track each week. And then when you're ready, you can get a little bit more granular to see, okay, well, what products and services did that income come from? What are the categories of your expenses? And that can tell you, what am I making the most money from? That gives you a bigger sense of what's working, what to focus on, what to shift. You can see, where am I spending the most in my business? Does that align with your values and priorities of where you're wanting to go? Are you investing enough in your business? So just sitting down like this once a week, and I like to do this on Fridays, is one of the most important habits that you can develop as an empowered CEO. Now, let's dive deeper into the second half of this conversation, which maybe is a little bit edgier. It's about pricing. Because this is where so many of us as women entrepreneurs get stuck. And I want to speak directly to something I see all the time. Women undercharging for our services. I am guilty of it too. I'm raising my hand. And here's what often happens. We come up with a price that feels slightly uncomfortable, and then we immediately discount in our minds. We say, oh, that's too much. Who would pay for that? I'm not experienced enough to charge that. My clients will judge me for that. Does it sound familiar? And so here's the truth. You undercharging is not serving anyone. It's not serving you. It's not serving your clients either. Because when you undercharge, one, you're likely to over-deliver to compensate for feeling like you're not enough. Two, you'll need to take on more clients to make ends meet, which can lead to burnout, i.e. you not being able to take enough time off for vacation or to do self-care. Three, you won't have the resources to invest back in your business growth to help you get out of the cycle of under-earning in the first place. And 4, you may start resenting your work, which impacts the quality of service you provide. So instead of asking what's the minimum I can charge, you can try asking, what would make this deeply sustainable for me? What would allow me to show up as my best self for my clients? What would give me the resources to continue growing and improving my services? What would honor the years of experience, training, and wisdom I bring? So here's a practical exercise I use with some of my clients. Take your current prices and multiply them by 1.5. Take your current prices, multiply them by 1.5, then sit with that number. And notice what parts of you get activated. So what fears come up? What stories surface? Now, this isn't about immediately implementing that higher price. It's about understanding your relationship with money and value. Because often the resistance to raising our prices isn't actually about the market or what people will pay. It's actually about our own wounds of unworthiness. It's about those deeper stories we carry about money, about success, about whether or not we deserve abundance. And see, right here, right at this place is where the inner work of being a sorcerer CEO becomes so crucial. We need to heal these wounds in these stories to step into our full power as business owners. And yes, that includes charging prices that reflect our true expertise. So let me share something that might surprise you. When you raise your rates, you often get better clients. I have seen this firsthand in my own business. Higher prices tend to attract clients who are more committed to doing the work, value themselves and therefore value you, come ready to implement rather than just consume, respect your boundaries and time, and show up as true partners in the transformation process. They're willing to be coachable and to meet you halfway. So here's something else I want you to consider that likely you haven't considered before. Your pricing isn't just about you. When you undercharge, you are actually contributing to the collective undervaluing of women's work. Every time you raise your rates consciously and stand firm in the value of what you offer, you help create new possibilities for other women entrepreneurs. Okay, so let's get practical about this. Let's talk about some steps to raise your rates because I know this can feel scary. So first, start with new clients. I recommend implementing new prices with new clients first because this gives you a chance to build confidence with your new rates while honoring your existing client relationships. Second step is give advance notice for your existing clients. Give them plenty of notice about the price increases and frame it positively, talking about how this allows you to serve them even better, to continue investing in your own growth and expertise. And the third thing is improve your packaging. Sometimes what needs to shift isn't just the price, it's how you present and package your offerings. And this is one of the first things that I do with my clients and members of Sorcerer CEO. So you can look at how can you create more value, moving beyond just 1-hour sessions. What additional support could you provide? And how could you structure your offerings to create even better results? Now, here's what I've learned over my years in business. The right price is often the one that makes you stretch a little bit. If you are completely comfortable with your prices, they're probably too low. You want to get to that edge of, ooh, can I really charge for this? Because that is where the growth happens. And remember, no one ever built a sustainable, impactful, enjoyable business by being the cheapest option on the menu. The most successful online businesses I see are those that focus on being the most valuable, not the most affordable. So let me share something from my own journey with pricing because I think it illustrates what many of us go through. Back in the early days of my business, I was charging what I thought was reasonable for my services. That was comparable to what other people in town were charging, and it basically was enough to cover my bare expenses. And I had the idea that because I was doing spiritual work, I shouldn't charge too much. I shouldn't stand out from other people in the field, and that somehow charging would, I don't know, make my work seem less spiritual. And you know what? I was exhausted. I was working a lot, seeing client after client, and still barely making ends meet. And I had this part of me, we can call her my spiritual martyr part, who was convinced that struggling financially somehow made my work more pure or authentic or helped me to kind of like fit in with air quotes spiritual teachers. But it wasn't until I started working with my first business coach that I had a major wake up call. And he looked at my pricing and the value I was providing, and he said something that changed everything. He said, "You're not charging for the hour, you're charging for the transformation, for all the years of experience and wisdom that you bring, for the ongoing support between sessions." And that hit me hard because I realized I've been severely undervaluing not just my time, but yes, the depth of transformation I was offering, because women were saying again after again, again and again and again, that this work was changing their lives. So I decided to do something that terrified me at the time. I doubled my rates. I want to know what happened? Yes, I did lose some clients, and yes, that was scary. But the clients who stayed and the new ones who came in at my new rates, they were different. They were more committed. They did the work. They got better results. And because I was earning more and working less, I had more energy to support them, to continue my own growth, and to show up as my best self. So this wasn't just about making more money, though that was certainly welcome. It was about stepping into my worth, about honoring the value of what I offer, and about creating a sustainable model that allowed me to serve at an even higher level. So now in Sorcerer's CEO, I see this pattern play out with women entrepreneurs all the time. They're afraid to raise their rates because of inner parts that say things like, "Who am I to charge that much? What if no one pays it? People will think I'm greedy. My work should be accessible to everyone." And yes, these are all valid concerns. And hear me out. This is what I want you to consider. When you are undercharging, you are actually limiting your impact. You are burning yourself out, which means fewer people get to benefit from your gifts. You are staying small, which means your work doesn't reach as far as it could. True accessibility isn't about undercharging. It's about creating different ways for people to work with you. Maybe that's through group programs, online courses, maybe some pro bono work when you have the capacity. But your premium offers, those need to be priced at a level that's sustainable and honors your expertise. So another strategy is to introduce what I call value-based pricing. So instead of charging by the hour, which is a quick path to burnout, and I want you to move away from that, ideally, as quickly as you can, like my business coach recommended, price based on the transformation you provide. Ask yourself, what's the real value of the problem you're solving? What's the cost to your client if they don't solve this problem? And what's the long-term impact of your working together? So here's something crucial that I learned the hard way. When you shift to value-based pricing, instead of charging by the hour, you need to get really clear on articulating that value. And that's where messaging comes in very strongly. You can't just raise your prices without being able to communicate why they're worth it. So this means getting specific about your outcomes, having clear case studies and testimonials, being able to speak confidently about your methodology, and understanding and articulating your unique approach. So here's a mindset shift that I want you to try on. Maybe instead of big, scary price jumps every few years, consider implementing smaller, regular increases. Maybe that's a 10% increase every 6 months or a small bump with each new client. And this helps you avoid the drama and fear that comes with major price hikes because the cost of living is constantly going up incrementally. So why can't your rates be doing the same? So let's talk before we close about having those price increase conversations, because I know this is where many of us can start to feel our hearts beating a bit faster. First, approach these conversations from a place of service, not apology. When you're raising your rates from a grounded, aligned place, you are actually doing your clients a favor by ensuring you can continue to show up powerfully for them. So here's what this might sound like. I want to let you know that starting on this date, my rates will be increasing to this new rate. I'm making this change to ensure I can continue providing the highest level of support for my clients. Because you're a current client, I'd love to offer you this transition option before this change takes effect. So notice what's not in that message. There's not a long explanation. There's no apologizing. There's no justifying. There's just clear professional communication. So now let's bring this whole conversation about money and pricing full circle. Now remember where we started. Talking about those early money stories, those fears around charging what we're worth, that hesitation to really own our value. And here's what I know to be true after working with hundreds of women entrepreneurs. Your pricing, my dear, is not just about money. It is about your relationship with your own power, your ambivalence about your own power. It's about how much you're willing to receive. And it's about the impact you want to have in the world. When you step into charging what you are worth, you're not just changing your business, you're changing the paradigm. You're showing other women what is possible. You are creating a new model of what it looks like to be successful while staying true to your values and your spiritual path. And we need more role models like this. So I invite you to take one step today toward more aligned pricing. Maybe that's reviewing your current rates. Maybe it's having that conversation you've been putting off. Maybe it's simply sitting with the question, what would it look like to fully own my value? Because when you truly own your worth and price accordingly, you create space for magic to happen in your business, in your life, and in the lives of everyone you serve. Remember, you're not just building a business, you are creating a legacy. And that legacy includes showing other women that it is possible to be both spiritually aligned and financially empowered. So we've covered a lot of ground today. From those early money stories that shape us, like my own experience watching my mom's financial dependence, to the practical steps of pricing our services in alignment with our true value. So remember where we started, looking at those basic but crucial numbers in your business each week. Your weekly revenue, your weekly expenses, your profit margins, what's actually working in your business. This weekly money date with yourself is part of your weekly Sorceress CEO date that I talked about last week. This is absolutely fundamental. So as I mentioned earlier, I usually do mine on Fridays, and it's one of the most powerful CEO practices I have because you can't shift what you're not willing to look at, even when it's uncomfortable. When you combine this practical money awareness with conscious pricing strategies, you create a foundation for your true financial empowerment. You become what that business coach called a self-generating cash machine, someone who knows how to create money when you need to and knows how to manage it wisely once it comes in, because both pieces are crucial: the money management and the pricing, the inner work and the outer strategies, the healing of old wounds and the creation of new possibilities. This is what being a Sorceress CEO is all about: bringing together the practical and the magical, the strategic and the sacred. It's about creating a business that's not just profitable, but deeply aligned with your values and your vision. If you are ready to dive deeper into this work and transform your relationship with money and pricing, really your entire relationship with your business, I invite you to join us inside my year-long mentorship and mastermind circle, Sorceress CEO. Now, Sorceress CEO is not just another business program. It's an IFS-based transformational container where we explore all of these themes in depth, from healing your money wounds to stepping into aligned pricing, from clarifying your vision to implementing sustainable systems. We work step by step to help you create and grow your dream business from your highest self within a community of other women entrepreneurs at your level. So here's what makes Sorceress CEO different. We're not just focusing on strategy, though you will get plenty of that. We're doing the deeper inner work that allows those strategies to actually take root and create lasting change. Because let's be honest, you probably already know a lot about what you should be doing in your business. The question is, what's stopping you from doing it? And that's where our IFS-based approach comes in. Couple that with smart business foundations and intuitively inspired action plans, and you've got a powerful framework for creating the kind of success that feels truly authentic, sustainable, and well, at times, even magic. Applications are open now, but not for much longer. And I am excited to share that there's also a special early bird discount available until February 13th. This is for women who are ready to say yes to themselves and to their dreams, who know that this is their year to make a bigger impact while staying deeply aligned with their values. You can learn more and submit your application at sorceressceo.com. That's sorceressceo.com. You'll also find the link to that in the show notes. If you have been resonating with what we've discussed today about money and pricing, if you're ready to step into your full power as a business owner, if you're craving both the practical strategy and the soulful support to make it happen, this is your invitation to apply. As always, I love hearing from you. Share your thoughts. Let me know how things are going on Instagram at Sarah Yvonne Stover. And remember, your relationship with money is a journey. It's not a destination. This is a lifelong process. Every time you choose to look at your numbers, every time you raise your prices, every time you have a conscious conversation about money, you're healing not just yourself, but contributing to the healing of our collective relationship with money as women. Thank you for being on this journey with me. And until next time, keep showing up for yourself and your dreams. Thank you for joining me today. And remember, change doesn't come from listening alone. I invite you to commit to taking one small or large, courageous action after today's conversation. One step you can take, if you haven't already, is to sign up for my Sunday journal. It's a weekly newsletter filled with inspiration and reflections about the intersection between spiritual entrepreneurship and fulfilling your potential to help you become the woman you truly are in every area of your life. You can subscribe at programs-sarahayvonnestover.com/journal. And if you found this podcast valuable, please share it with the women in your world. Also, I'd be very grateful if you'd leave a review. It helps others find resources like this, and I'd love to hear what's coming alive for you after listening today. Above all, keep going, and never forget the unique offerings you and your true self bring to the world. Until next time, I'm sending you my heartfelt support.